Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the main event. You're here with me, Daniel.
And Aaron.
As you can see, we are not in the studio today. That is thanks to the weather in the northeast of England. Aaron cannot get into the studio because of roads being flooded. There's been mass chaos. My back gate and fence has been ripped off, which is pleasant. I'm going to have to buy a new one, I think. How's the storm been treating you, Aaron?
Yeah, it kind of took me off my feet. I was caught off by surprise. I had the wind knocked out of me. I'm trying to think of as many storm puns as I can. Don't worry, I can hear your thunderous applause for all the listeners.
It's a real whirlwind of emotion here, Aaron.
To be honest, it's really calm and nice today, but the aftermath has, a couple of villages around me have lost all their power, so we've been quite fortunate. Normally, we are the ones that lose our power, and just all the roads are either roadworks or flooded. So it's like COVID all over again, just locked in.
We're back to the comfort of our own homes for this episode. Hopefully, for the next one, we will be back in the studio. So, without further ado, we'll dive straight in, Aaron. We'll talk about how last week went. So, I'll let you start. First of all, did you use a chip? If so, which one did you use? How did you do? All that good stuff.
I did not use a chip. I did 2 transfers. Annoyingly, I would have done better without the transfers. So I took out Cancelo and Henriks. Henriks didn't play, so that's all right. But Cancelo would have been the only defender who got a return for Gersons and Saliba. And that was to try and just kind of, if they did pop off, I would have been somewhat close to the people with Limitless. So it was a bit of a defensive move. Cancelo got more points than both of them together. And Gerson's got a goal disallowed, offside, rightly, but finished with 50 points. So I kind of kept pace with people. Bellingham, 14 points was my biggest haul, and Thuram, still having him in my team, helped me out, where a lot of people got rid of him because of the Limitless. But 50 points, it was a red arrow, but that was to be expected. With everyone playing their Limitless, I'm still in quite a good position because I've got both chips left.
Yeah, you beat quite a few Limitless players from what I've seen, to be fair. It wasn't a great week for Limitless. I used a wild card. I think my non-wild card team would have performed maybe better, if not similar at the very least. Because I took out
the moment, isn't it?
Yeah, like I took out like Actacoglu and stuff like that. So, but I mean, I set up for a few weeks. I got 64 points. So my returns came from DeMarco, Boscali, even though he did concede a couple of goals, got 6 ball recoveries, so he ended up on 4 points, which was nice. Marcus Thuram, same as you. Luke de Jong, I got a 5-pointer because he scored and then got booked in the 96th minute. I had Bellingham's 14, but the major W for me this week was not having Haaland, which meant that I couldn't captain him on the second day, unlike a lot of people who captained Haaland for, I think, he got 2 points. So I had to captain Koundé 6-12. So 64 points overall. In terms of my overall rank, I'm 167k in the world, which is like halved my rank basically. I was like 350,000, something like that.
So yeah, 140k at the moment.
So it is what it is. It's certainly not my best start in the last.
It'll be like, I think there's like 15 points between where we are in the top 10k. So it's really close at the moment.
I think there's 9 points between me and Lewis, and he's 500,000. Something like that. It's either 9 or 11. I cannot remember what it's one of them. But either way, but like that's a lot. That's a lot of places. So I think it's nothing to panic about. I do think there's a clear pack at the minute ahead. Still got the Limitless to use, and you've still got your wild card to use. Are you going to be using your wild card this week, or are you going to save it for the future?
I'm potentially debating to try and do it match day 4 going into rotation.
Brave.
And start to pick teams that have already start to get the players who have already qualified out and get in the teams that have already played.
The thing
But
is,
I
with
am
that, there's only going to be really Bayern Munich and Man City in that position.
Yeah, so that was my original plan, but then some of the results last match day kind of threw me off. Like Arsenal, for example, they're
Yeah,
still going to field a strong squad in
in 5.
five. Yeah, there's quite a few. So because of so that was my original thinking. My thinking is that I would potentially lean towards the wild card this week, but just to try and navigate all the injuries and stuff, which we'll get into.
Yeah, 100%. Let's dive into this week's fixtures. So we're going to go through group by group. We're going to try and make it quick. We are at the point now where we don't need to go on too much. We've had an international break, which is really difficult. Players perform very differently for the international teams to what they do for the club teams, obviously. We're all getting an idea of which players to go for. There's been some games today, but not all the games. So it's going to give our general impressions of the games and who we think we should pick and if there's any injuries. So we're going to start with Bayern Munich against Galatasaray. So they're away at Galatasaray. This is going to be a fairly tricky fixture, I think, for Bayern Munich. But obviously we saw how Galatasaray did against Copenhagen at home in the first game and even against Man United to a degree. Like, they are leaky Galatasaray, but equally Bayern Munich are fairly leaky as well. Do you have an idea of how this game's going to go?
Both teams scoring. I think it'll be a similar scoreline now. Galatasaray, Man United. It'll be like a 3-2 type of game. So same story as always. Kind of don't spend your budget on Bayern Munich defenders. Try and prioritize the attackers. I think Harry Kane potentially stays in a lot of people's teams. Leroy Sané, if people do want to go there, despite his 2 points for the last match. But yeah, I think that Bayern Munich, you only really focus on the attackers. They're still on that unbeaten run of group stage matches. I don't think that there'll be another upset. So you're bringing in players for both the away leg and the home leg. So you would want them in for both.
Yeah, just to go through a few injuries. Serge Gnabry's got a lack of fitness at the minute. Upamecano, Guerrero, Mazraoui all out until early November, which again is not good for their defence, but at least Kim's back now. So hopefully that'll share them up a little bit. I think for me, players are really, really simple for this game. Kane and Sané. You can go, obviously, Musiera, and you can go for Coleman if you want. But I think Sané and Kane are the two big players to go for in the group stages. Galatasaray, again, I do think, and you obviously thought as well, that they can nick a few goals. I think they have 3 outstanding players to go for. Aktakoglu at 6. Wilfred Zaha, who I think 7.5 the last time I checked. He is a midfielder on the game as well. He's been playing really, really well for them recently. Finally started to add some attacking returns to his game and is getting a good run of fixtures on the left. And then Mauro Icardi up front. Saw what happened against Man United. You'd back him to score against Bayern Munich. Like, I agree with you. I remember I think Bayern Munich are going to win this game or certainly not lose it. I could totally see a 2-2 draw, something like that for this. And this is a really good fixture for backing those attacking players from both teams. Where I think if you're on a wild card, you might want to maybe hold back on Galatasaray or figure a way of getting out of them, is for the away game, because Bayern Munich at home are just totally different. They're a totally different animal at home to what they are away. And you wouldn't fancy Galatasaray so much in that game. But then, they're going to have Man United at home and then Copenhagen again, although Copenhagen away, maybe not the best. So Galatasaray players are cheap, at least in terms of, Icardi at 9 million is underneath the premium range. Aktakoglu at 6 million is underneath a lot of players. I think it's the same price as Rodri. And I think at this present moment in time, you'd prefer Actacoglu, and then again Zaha's sort of. It's a shame he's around the Bellingham price range, but I think he could do a job. Have I missed any players out there?
Not the ones that I would be considering. I think a lot of people may have like an Alphonso Davies or stuff like that, but I think there's better uses of that 6 million defender, kind of what you mentioned. I think looking at the Tuesday fixtures, I think people are either going to captain Bellingham, potentially Man United player, but I think this is going to be a lot of people's captains as well from this match. So Harry Kane, potentially a lot of people will go for, but if they want to punt a little bit, Sane, he's not massively a punt, just with his track record, but he'd probably be against the grain. A lot of people, I think, will captain Harry Kane or Jude Bellingham. So I think that's an interesting dynamic to this match as well.
Yeah, and then I think people will captain Dumfries.
Yeah. the Mavericks.
Tuesdays are for wing backs. We know this. We should rename the podcast to that. Tuesdays are for wing backs. We've both said that with what we think the score is going to be without being wildly specific, but people get the general idea. Man United versus Copenhagen. Copenhagen are playing maybe now, I think, from what I was looking at.
They're losing 1-0.
There you go. Against Vale. There's a rogue J in there. It's difficult. It's difficult to pronounce. For a 5-letter word, it's fairly difficult.
And Man United play later on at the time we're recording, so by the time you're watching this, you'll know the result. Yeah, I think that's going to be a very emotionally charged match now with the recent news.
Yeah, I think it will be particularly for the fans. I'm sad to say I personally don't think too many of the players will care less.
I think, yeah, I don't think there'll be too many players, but the fans, it'll be their first game at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
So I think in terms of players, I don't know how risky people want to go on the first day, but Højlund, he's scored a few goals in Europe now. And so that's kind of like an alternative to the kind of the typical strikers. And then in terms of other Man United players, I don't think there is too many others. Maybe Bruno Fernandes people might have, but I don't know if he's going to be an option that we can fit in.
Yeah, I think Bruno is a really good pick, but I think Højlund's as well. I think they're the two. Højlund at 7 million, and Copenhagen just feels like it's his kind of fixture. It just feels like it was made for him. So I can definitely see some Højlund goals. I have Osimhen who is injured, and it's sort of it's a case of, do I need to do a little bit of surgery to get up to Haaland? Do I just go to Alvarez, or do I spin them both and go Højlund? Do I get rid of Luke de Jong and go Højlund? Because I think Højlund is a fantastic pick this week. I think if you're on a wild card, this is a great opportunity because you fancy him against Copenhagen at home and you fancy him against Copenhagen away. So for those two fixtures, I just think he's going to be absolute mustard. Bruno Fernandes as well on penalties. He is, I think, the joint most expensive midfielder in the game at the minute. That's where the issues come from. It's like, how do you get him in? I think if you're on a wild card, for me personally, I would go for Bruno and then use him as a placeholder for next week to bring in Saka when Saka is at home. And I think playing on a Tuesday next week, not a Wednesday, I think that's the way it works. But yeah, Saka's just such a good home player versus an away player. I think away to Sevilla is going to be a much sterner test for Arsenal than at home. I think at home they'll probably just run away with it. They've got 2 home fixtures in a row. So I think if you can get Man United at home to Copenhagen, Bruno, knowing that 9 million is then just going straight to Bukayo Saka, that's probably a fairly clever thing to do. I unfortunately have Martin Odegaard.
I think Bruno Fernandes has some great stats in terms of how many shots and chances that he creates, which we always knew with him. But if you can fit him in, I think he is a great option. I potentially don't think that this is as easy as a fixture as maybe like we thought going in, because I think Copenhagen are playing quite well. And they're in a good position in the table in terms of the group. So Man United will have to get 6 points out of these next two fixtures in order to be in a good position.
Obviously, just for Man United injuries, we all kind of know, but just so that people are aware, obviously, Luke Shaw's still out till late November. Aaron Wan-Bissaka's out. Malacia's out. Amad Diallo's out. But also, Casemiro's suspended, I believe, against Copenhagen. And I think he's injured anyway, but he's definitely suspended for this game. So if you got Casemiro, get him out or just don't have him at all, which for me does slightly diminish the clean sheet potential now that Eric Ten Hag stopped playing him alone in the middle and he's getting overrun by 4 players at a time. Lisandro Martinez has an unknown return date. So they do have a few injuries at the back. But I'm not sure if Serge Reguilon's back. But if he is back, I think every single wildcard team should have him in for 4 million for a double up against Copenhagen. It doesn't get better than that. But you're going to have a look to see how fit he is. I know I was going to have him in on my wildcard team until I saw he was missing.
Yeah, I think I saw in the match report this week for Man United that he was back training. So obviously we'll know if he's played against Sheffield or not. But
what do you think the score's going to be, Aaron?
I'll go with Man United winning 2-1.
I'm gonna go Man United to win 3-0.
So you go for the clean sheet.
Yeah, why not? I just don't rate Copenhagen that much, to be brutally honest. I think obviously it was great that they got a goal against Bayern Munich, but they are absolutely they're even more battered than Man United at the back. At least Man United's it's fullbacks, whereas Bayern Munich barely had a centre back available, and they often just play with 1 or 2 defenders anyway. Group B. Oh, sorry, so I was wrong about Arsenal. They do play Tuesdays. We've got Group B. We'll start with Arsenal though. They're away to Sevilla. Arsenal are a funny one because they are a much better team home than they are away, as we saw against Lens. But you also do just sort of back them. And if you are gonna wild card, I do think you need plans to get them for the 2 home games against Sevilla and Lens. I think you need them for those 2 fixtures personally, but you have to figure out which one you want now, and you have to figure out how you're going to have the money to get them, which is why I think the Bruno Fernandes thing is a good idea. And if you went for Bruno Fernandes, it means that you wouldn't need to go for Højlund. I think you just go for one of them. You don't need to go for both. I think people have seen an FPL so far until tonight when the pair of them go absolutely nuts. How doubling up on Man United assets has not been working so much because they tend not to create loads of chances. So I think people need a way of getting into Arsenal. The defense is just so expensive that they are a limitless team only. So I do think limitless in 4 or 5 when Arsenal have home games is going to be a really good time to use it because they won't have qualified by game week 5 because of the loss to Long. So yeah, I think they'd be good for the future, but I don't think this is a week to bring them in. Even though Sevilla aren't the best team in the world, they're just really annoying. They just become a team now that I've got no idea which version of them is going to turn up for a game of football. Do you have any thoughts on this game?
No, I just think that this is a game that's really, really hard to bring in players for. But if you're not using a chip, which I think most people will be using a wild card, I think, just because of their limitless, I guess, nightmare. Definitely having a plan to bring the Arsenal players in, because they will have to get the full 9 points that they have available from home matches. So I think that's going to be key. And then I think in terms of Sevilla, this is their better chance. That they are a tricky team. I think they're probably just eyeing up their path to get into the Europa League. How they can finish
Already.
Yeah. So, but in terms of bringing players in, I don't think there's actually too much people that we want to bring in.
I totally agree. I'm not interested in actually bringing any of their players in, really.
I'll still back Arsenal for the 2-1 win, though, before we move on.
And the thing today is, as well, they're currently playing against Real Madrid. So I think that's probably going to take it out of them a little bit. Real Madrid have already had a goal disallowed. So that's obviously not. I do feel like Arsenal can score, but I could also back Sevilla to score. If someone's going to score for Sevilla, it's probably going to be Yusuf Naziri, isn't it, really? There's also, obviously, Saka has been injured recently, has started against Chelsea. So I think that's something that we might need to think about. But this if you don't have any players from this game, this isn't a game I'm probably getting on now, but you're going to want to think about how to get them. That's sort of the final thing. What do you think the score's going to be, Aaron?
I'll still back them for the 2-1, I think.
I think it's going to finish 2-2.
I think it'll take something severe for Saka not to play. I feel like he just gets played.
And as we speak, Chelsea are winning 1-0 thanks to Cole Palmer. Arsenal are away to Chelsea as well. I've got Odegaard in my team. Unfortunately, I've got Osimhen and Koundé, who are both injured. But Aaron, I think I might take my first ever -4 in a group stage, you know.
Oh, what would you do?
Osimhen, Koundé, and Odegaard out. I have to see. I need to see how long Koundé is out for, if I can just keep him on my bench. Because I feel like there's fixtures to attack here, and I need to do something. And we're about to talk about a team very shortly that I really, really need to get some players for. I've got one player from them, but I need doubles, triples. We'll move on to the PSV. PSV making hard work against Sevilla, especially considering PSV were at home. They've not really been playing to the level that I expected them to play at, which is another issue when I've got Luke de Jong in my team. Have you been impressed at all by PSV, or do you think they've been playing bad, or do you think that they've actually just came up against a couple of really good teams?
Against Arsenal, I expected that kind of. I expected a closer match. They're kind of disappointed there. But first Champions League match at the Emirates, it was always going to be a tough occasion. But I mean, they're still top of the Eredivisie. I think that with Sevilla, they are a tough team, but it was always going to be these games against Lyon when I think we expected PSV to kind of pick up the points. Just looking at the fixtures, and potentially when Arsenal go back to their place, that it'll be potentially a rotated squad when we first looked. So, I think, to answer your question, they've been against tough teams. I don't think the true PSV has came out yet.
With that in mind, drew 0-0 last night. So that was Friday night, just for anyone, just in terms of a timestamp of when and where we are. Literally, Cole Palmer's just scored. That's sort of where we are at the minute on Saturday evening. This group's proving, as we sort of thought it was before, during our group previews, before anything, the ball was kicked, really difficult to predict. I appreciate obviously group F is the group of death, but this must be one of the most neatly balanced groups we've ever seen. This does give off the Tottenham group from last year with Sporting Lisbon and Frankfurt in there, and it just does not make me want to go for any player from any of these teams, which is obviously really awkward when I've got Luke de Jong in my team. Veerman is someone that I sort of championed recently, but he dropped deeper for some league games thanks to a slight tactical change due to injuries. And he's just not refound his form since moving back into a sort of a flat midfield three. PSV are about 8 minutes into their game tonight, so I've got absolutely nothing to go from on that front. If there was one player from this game that you would go for, Aaron, who would it be?
Probably de Jong. That's a bit awkward when you've got him and you're trying to get you're considering getting rid of him. But
yeah. What about El Yawahi, 6.5 million forward for long, goal and assist in the last particular game? Does he take your fancy? Because he was bought in for 30 million euros, I believe, at the start of the season. So when they went on that terrible, disastrous opener, he wasn't playing in those games. I think he played in the fourth game of the season, got to be 3-0. But after that, the results have gotten better for them. He's an expensive player. Openda went to Leipzig and they really struggled with that. So do you think for 6.5 million, do you think he could score at home to PSV again? Not again in terms of PSV, but he got a goal and assist against Arsenal.
I mean, he could. I think the only issue is that how is your team built for you to have to, or what could a 6.5 million forward allow you to do? I'm not saying that you need the 3 premium forwards because
half of them are injured.
None of them are kind of blowing us away. But yeah, it depends on how your team is made up, and that could open up a lot of options. But I do think the lack of midfielder options means that your team, I don't know how it would even look, to be honest. You'd probably be able to fit in Fernandes, Saka, Kvaratskhelia, Bellingham.
We're going to talk about some of these players. We've already talked about Fernandes. We are going to talk about Kvaratskhelia very shortly. We've sort of said for next week, Saka, maybe Odegaard. You've still got Jude at 7.5, who I think is just going to be a mainstay, absolute staple in everyone's team, regardless. You know what I didn't do, actually? I didn't check Real Madrid's starting lineup for tonight because, as I mentioned earlier, they are currently playing against Sevilla. As well, Aaron, just for your own information, Bayern Munich, not even 20 minutes in, are 2-0 up in their game. Kingsley Coman with a Leroy Sané assist, and Harry Kane scored. So what a shock. What a shock that we said there are 4 players to get, and 3 of them have got an attack in return. They're just so predictable. It is a very predictable game sometimes. I actually think that Wahi's a good pick, and it means that you can, if you're going to go with the 2 premiums and the 1 offset with like a Jimenez, Wahi's, you don't have to go for too high up to get. But if you wanted to go stacked at the back, Cancelo, Kieran Trippier, Hakimi, these sorts of players, I think a player like him will allow you to do that because, as we're about to find out, a lot of premium forwards are injured. I mean, I've already mentioned Osimhen's injured. So, but by a lot, I mean that there's not that many premium forwards anyway. I think there were 5 premium forwards, and only 4 of them. 5 or 6 premium forwards, but some of them just aren't options now, in my opinion. What's the score going to be for Lyon v PSV?
I've backed PSV, so I'll say 3-1.
That's wild. I think Lyon win this game. I think Lyon win this game 3-1. So massive swing there, Aaron. Absolutely
Group B
massive.
will be wild, especially based on our predictions.
Yeah, normally we're very similar, but the fact that we think it's going to go completely each way, draw,
Shows this group, yeah.
guaranteed 0-0 draw. We'll go on to Group C now. We'll start with Real Madrid, seeing that we've just said that they're playing the draw 0-0 with Sevilla at the moment. As we mentioned, Vinicius Jr. is fit. I still don't think he's the greatest pick in the world, just because the position that he plays doesn't suit him. He's playing as a striker that then drifts out wide, which is great for the team, I suppose. But Vinicius is more of a player that you want to start out wide and to drift into the centre. It's obviously all to accommodate Jude Bellingham, who will without a doubt score an 87th minute winner today for a 1-0 win. That is written in the stars. Rodrigo also doesn't really like playing as a striker. I don't think he wants to do the same. He wants to start out wide, whether that's the right or the left. He's predominantly played in the right. However, originally he was left. I think he just got pushed out to the right because of Vinicius Jr. So there's a lot happening for Jude Bellingham to be accommodated, which means that I think other Real Madrid players become less of an option. It's Bellingham only. We did have a question for our other podcast about, do we think Jude Bellingham is going to be a rotation risk because they've got this game, the Champions League, and then it's El Clasico next weekend? I personally don't think so at all, because as much as other players need minutes like Modric, like Diaz, I just think all of the other players also are going to need to be rotated. And Bellingham's the last choice. I think Bellingham, if Real Madrid can get a 1 or 2-0 lead in this game by 70 minutes, he'll hook them. And I think he can, if they're winning, the play Braga, by the way, play Braga away. If they're winning that game, again, I think Jude Bellingham comes off. I do think it minimises his captaincy potential, if I'm being honest, because I just don't think he's going to be on the pitch so long. That being said, if he's on the pitch for 90 minutes and gets a goal, he's player of the match. He's got his goal. They might keep a clean sheet. He's a 10-point minimum if he scores. Just there's not a single person alive watching the games that has the balls to pick anyone other than Jude Bellingham as man of the match if he scores. He's just that player now. He's N'Golo Kante, he's Kevin De Bruyne, rolled into one. The amount of man of the matches he's had this season are utterly insane, and it's because he scores. So he's also, if you are scared that he's going to get rotated, I just wouldn't be, because he's so highly owned anyway. If he does do anything, you are screwed. But if he does now, then every single other person is in the same boat as you anyway. And just to double check, this is a Tuesday game as well, yeah? Is that right? Am I right in that?
Yep.
So if he doesn't play, who cares? Just put your Wednesday player in for him. You're going to have more issues when it comes to the other match days when he's playing on a Wednesday, but he's playing on a Tuesday. So this is not the time to be taking him out at all. It's 7.5 million. There are loads of players around his price point that you can transfer in for him if he becomes a rotation risk. I think it's as simple as that. Braga, obviously, what a comeback against Union Berlin. And although Union Berlin are absolutely naff at the back, I still think it proves that they can score goals. They do score goals in the Portuguese league generally. And they are at home in the first leg, and well, not leg, but the first game, which makes us think like I'm still not bothered about Real Madrid defenders, like in the slightest. So Real Madrid might keep a clean sheet. It might be something that you want to do on a wild card because they're going to have Braga again at home. And then they've got Napoli at home, which is obviously a much better fixture than Napoli away, and they did well there. And then Union Berlin away. So you could bring one in. I think Carvajal's probably got the best sort of points projection, if you like, but I definitely see him as a rotation risk. Lucas Vasquez will be playing these games as soon as they've qualified. Whereas I think players like Antonio Rudiger are a lot safer because Militao's out. Alaba, I think, will be a rotation risk because he's too important. I think Fran Garcia and Mendy rotate on that left-hand side as soon as they're done. So if you're on a wild card and you are really trying to, maximize it to 6, Kepa, your goalkeeper, fine. 4.5 million, I think, still spot on. Or
I
you
think
go
it's
on.
5.
Is he 5? 5, whatever. He's not, he's not Jan or Black, is he? And then you've got Rudiger. I think they're your 2 defensive picks. You go Bellingham. That's your whack, I think, from Real Madrid. Do you think I've missed anyone out?
No, I had Tuchemeni in my team, hoping to get like a person who can guarantee me like 4 or 5 points. At the moment, he can only guarantee me 3.
Yeah.
So, his ball recoveries, he's got 5 ball recoveries in each of the 2 games, and that's not what I wanted.
Nope. Get rid.
So,
and even if he did get it, like, it's an extra point. You know what I mean? It's 1 point.
yeah,
You've got to be an absolute beast at ball recoveries in this game for them to be worth it. Like 4 points.
Yeah, and he's the same. He's the same price as me getting in like a Bastoni who's averages 9 ball recoveries a match. So
yeah, or is even the same price as an Anthony Gordon?
Yeah.
He's actually more expensive. Is he not more expensive? How much is Tchouaméni? 6 million?
No, 5.5.
5.5. So sorry, yeah, he's exactly the same price as Anthony Gordon. And I know that I'd rather have Anthony Gordon against Borussia Dortmund than Tchouaméni against Braga.
A 20-point performance incoming.
I assume we're not really going to recommend 2 people from Braga. The 2 people that we always recommend are the same 2 people, in my opinion, in that Horta and Bruma. And sort of rightly so, especially after the last game. I'm just bringing up the last game in terms of actually who got assists and stuff, because I know that one of them was an absolute worldie and I don't know if it was awarded. But yeah, Bruma got a goal and an assist, and Ricardo Horta got 2 assists. From the get-go, they've been the 2 players that we've recommended, and they both went off. Bruma with a 13-pointer and Ricardo Horta with a 7-pointer. They're still my 2 recommendations. I still would not recommend anyone else. Would you see any different?
No.
Yeah. I think Broom has his problems. He's 7.5 million, and he's just had Union Berlin. Real Madrid double up isn't the one to go for. I think maybe I don't know. It might be a limitless option in 5 or something like that. That feels weird though, doesn't it? But yeah, I wouldn't go for any of them. What's the score going to be?
I think it'll be 1-0 to Tuchemeni, goal in the last minute. No, I think it'll be 2-0. Real Madrid. I think Vinicius Junior will score. I think he's just become that person again.
I think it's going to be 2-1 to Real Madrid. I think Braga scored because they're at home. And they're a goal-scoring team, and Real Madrid aren't the best defensively. So I'm going to say Real Madrid will win 2-1. Jude and Vinny. But I just think for Vinny's money, is he not like 11 million or something daft?
Yeah.
6 points isn't enough. Because that's what you'll get. If he gets a goal and not an assist, he's getting 6 points because he's not getting man of the match over Jude Bellingham if he scores.
Yeah.
That's the issue. That's why I don't. It's not that I don't think
unless he assists Bellingham.
Yeah, like.
But no, it's too much.
It's not that I don't think Vinicius Junior is absolutely class or that he can't score in every game. But it's the reason why I said for last season I wasn't too keen on Harry Kane for Tottenham. Is that it felt like his ceiling in the Champions League was 1 goal, and he was a £11 million player. So you're just not getting enough points per million. And he wasn't really. He's not a captaincy option, Vinicius Junior, for that much money. That's the issue. I'd captain the other premiums.
Yeah.
Napoli. you want to go into that
Yeah,
now? Or do
there's
you
a
want to
few,
say something?
there's a few injuries, isn't there, for both of these teams? A
Yeah,
couple of transfers need to be made. Gersons is out. Um, Osimhen, I think, is the biggest one. People will have to get out. I think that opens it up to potentially people maybe go Vinicius. Vinicius versus Mbappe, I think, is an interesting debate. But obviously, Cravadonna has scored 2 goals today. And his appeal potentially goes up a little bit because of that. He has to kind of carry that a bit. He's starting to come back into form. And I think my biggest concern for my team is Di Lorenzo. Does he stay in there? But personally, I think that he does, just
they
because
conceded again
he
today
has
to
multiple
Verona.
avenues to get.
Like they conceded again
Yeah,
today
he
to
has multiple
Verona.
avenues to get points though for that price.
And I don't know. Who's going to start up front? Raspadori, do you think? Do you think Raspadori is going to start
Yeah,
up front?
probably.
Obviously, Anguissa's out
Yeah,
as well.
I
I
think
don't
both
think.
Politano and no, I think Politano and Cravadonna's potential points go up just off the wing. Because Raspadori is more of he'll drop back to try and create running lanes. I don't think he's like a target man like Osimhen is. So it makes that front three a little bit more fluid and position changes. So, and ultimately, Politano being on the right side against a left-sided Union Berlin defence, which will have their second choice left wing back, I think it might be an interesting battle.
I'm sure the left wing back who will play is actually not that bad though. I can't think off the top of my head who
Well, I
it
mean,
is.
they did really well last year without Gerson, so
Like, because Gersons is more. I know he plays left back and left wing back, but he feels like a left winger more than anything else at times. I just kind of think of what the guy's name is. I'm trying to have a little look. Is it? Yeah, I kind of think of his name, but he was really good last year. I'm sure it begins with an R, like Roussillon or something, maybe. Uh, played really well last season and the season before. I'm sure he played for for Wolfsburg 2 years ago. I might be mistaken. Yeah, it is Roussillon. So I think he's probably maybe better defensively than Gorsons. Gorsons isn't like a very good defender, is he?
Gerson's played today.
Okay, so Aaron and I have just checked. The news that we heard on Thursday was that Robin Gorsons was out until mid-November. He played today. They did get stuffed 3-0, which says all that you need to know. So even if you've got Robin Gorsons, I don't think I'd want him against Napoli regardless at the end of the day. So I still think he's a transfer out, but he's not as immediate as you might think because bizarrely he is fit. So if you are listening to our UCL fantasy podcast with that, myself, Ed, and Lewis do, and we were talking about Gorsons being injured, we were lied to. What a shock. It's not the first time. It won't be the last time that's ever happened. That being said, I'd still just not go anywhere near any Union Berlin players. I think Kvaratskhelia is the best pick. Raspadori, if you're feeling particularly wild, or if you want wild carding, but you want a wild card next week or something like that. Do you have any idea how long Osman's out for, Aaron?
It's for a good bit. We don't know whether it's full injury or whether it's due to falling out with the board. But I don't think he'll play very much until January.
Do you not?
No.
Ooh, got some gossip about Aaron.
I've seen that kind of stuff happen before, where they'll say it's an injury to keep face and to protect Osimhen's reputation, but also to make the Napoli team just kind of as an organization, make them feel like they're a good organization when they're the ones totally in the wrong. So I think they're doing it to protect his stock price personally. He is injured, but I think they've not been fully honest about how long he's injured for, because there's reports out today saying like loads of people have agreed terms and stuff like that. So I think that
He's a goner.
I think he's being shut out the team, or he's in protest, but not doing that in case something falls through. I just don't think the injury is 100% honest.
Raspadori in your teams, everyone. Get him in. How much is Raspadori on the game, Aaron? 7.5 million, I feel, is what he should be.
I'll double check. But so, just in case anyone thinks that I'm not saying Osimhen's injured, he's definitely injured. I just don't think they've not even specified the muscle, but it's a thigh injury. They've not specified what part of the thigh, and he's out for, it says 10 weeks. So
10 weeks?
That's what it says in one report.
Raspadori, I have checked, 7.5 million. Bosh, if you can't get to Kvaratskhelia, Raspadori, 7.5 million. I think that is a very good pick against Union Berlin. So I think you'll score against them. They are rubbish at the minute. Bless them. Sorry, Union Berlin. I really like Union Berlin. I wanted them to do well. I think on this group I said I wanted them to qualify. I don't think they will, but I'm sure I said they'll finish third. That's not happening now, is it? But they're struggling in the Bundesliga as well. What's the score going to be, Aaron? Napoli versus Union Berlin.
I'll go with Napoli 3-1.
Napoli 3-1. I'm going to go with Napoli 4-0 away from home. Sorry, Union Berlin. I'm going for it tonight, Aaron. I'm not sitting on the fence. 4-0 Napoli. Greatest game ever. Okay, then. Group D. Inter, Benfica, Salzburg, and Real Sociedad. So we will start with Inter Milan versus Salzburg, just as they're the pot one. And I also just don't think that we'd need to talk about these too much at all. I think they're playing right now, are they not? 0-0? Am I wrong in that?
It was the last time I checked.
Dumfries has had another rest, so that feels like he's going to be starting 100% during the week. I want to make this really easy. Bastoni, DeMarco, Dumfries. Pick one of those. Pick one of those players. Pick Jan Sommer as your goalkeeper for day one. If you don't want Kepa Arrizabalaga, because obviously Jan Sommer is 4.5 million. And then you're going to want Thuram in midfield still, because he's still good. He's still scoring. 6.5 million midfielder playing up front, and Arnautovic is injured. So there is was that 5 players? Pick your poison. Obviously, Martinez is an outstanding footballer. I just don't see the value in him over Thuram at the moment, personally. But Aaron, you love Serie A. Why don't you tell me why I'm wrong? Also, Bayern Munich have just conceded. What a shock.
No, I don't think you're wrong with any of that. I think they're the players that you're going to pick. And if people don't have Thuram, if you wanted to go extra bold and crazy and out there, you could do DeMarco for the ceiling, Bastoni for the safe floor, and Sommer just because you'll save your money compared to Kappa.
Yeah. Triple up.
Ooh. For a double header against
Salzburg. And the first game's at home.
So that could be a Bayern Munich captain or a wing back as a captain. It could either go amazing and then could just go downhill from there the rest of the match day, or it'll be terrible and it'll make you almost delete the app.
Yeah, this is one of those, isn't it, where if you go for DeMarco or Dumfries, you are praying to all that is holy in this world. Not much at the minute, as it happens, but you're still praying to whatever's left that your Bayern Munich assets in Jude Bellingham do not go wild, because you're not going to earn anything off Jude Bellingham anyway. It's 70%. And if people will captain Kane and Sane, and I think they're at 30% ownership or whatever it is. If they go off and one of these don't, then you are chasing your tail for the following match day. That being said, there are still some great shouts for Tuesday. For Wednesday, sorry. But in my opinion, Dumfries is the better captain than DeMarco, because I just think he has a much higher ceiling than DeMarco. I think DeMarco is the safe.
DeMarco gets subbed off 60 minutes, 70 minutes every match.
DeMarco is such a safe pick because for that very reason, he gets subbed off early, so you got a higher clean sheet chance. And I think you get attacking returns more often, but Dumfries is the one that tends to get the goals. If one of them is going to get a goal, DeMarco tends to get an assist. Like, DeMarco doesn't feel like a player to captain as a wing back, whereas, players like Dumfries and Cancelo and Angelino, these sort of, like Taliafico, like they're goal scoring fullbacks, that sort of thing. Grimaldo is a goal scoring fullback. That's what you want. Whereas DeMarco doesn't feel like that. And of course he could score. But that's why I'm not going to captain him on the Tuesday. Whereas if I had Dumfries, I would captain him. Salzburg, hopeless against Sociedad after a very good start against Benfica. So that was I don't know, it felt like a disappointment from Salzburg, but it just also felt wow from Sociedad. They were absolutely outstanding in that game. That was the game that I watched more of. I watched more of that game than the Union Berlin, because they were the two games on together, weren't they? I probably should have watched either one, maybe. I did have the other one on for the goal at the end, but this game, Sociedad were just absolutely fantastic. Lucky that they didn't get a pen awarded against them. It was one of those where I felt it was a little bit harsh that VAR overruled it, but it was, I think in the call, it was probably the right decision. Marcus Thuram has just scored for Inter Milan, by the way, everyone. So Salzburg, not in a great place. I think they're going to struggle in these next three games, personally. I think they're actually going to struggle for the rest. I think they're just going to struggle. I wouldn't be going for any of them. Would you go for any of them?
Not against Inter at home.
Yeah, I don't disagree. By the way, DeMarco got subbed off after 57 minutes. Dumfries got subbed on for Pavard after 57 minutes. And Denzel Dumfries got the assist for Marcus Thuram.
Point proven.
Yeah, it's like we can see the future, Aaron.
I wish. We'd be a lot better at this game.
Yeah, we'd be much better at this game if we could. What's the score going to be?
1-0 Inter.
He's so boring.
Bastoni header.
I'm going to go for 1.5-0 to Inter.
So a VAR goal ruled out.
Yeah. I think it'll be 2-0 to Inter Milan. Benfica versus Sociedad. What a game. Benfica have actually turned around in the league. They've been winning a lot of games. They beat Porto in the league a couple of weeks ago, just before the international break. I haven't actually looked at the result from this weekend, but they've been doing well. They've been doing better, shall we say. Obviously, they were missing Silva through suspension against Inter, which definitely didn't help, but I don't think they disgraced themselves against Inter. Really tough place to go away at the San Siro. You know, getting 0-0 draws isn't for everyone, Aaron. So I think they'll still perform better. They are not a team that you want to be putting any kind of effort into getting players for, probably until maybe Salzburg on the final game where it's do or die for them. But even when they have been winning games, in the Portuguese league, it's been scrappy 1-0s and things like that. It's not been blown teams' ways they historically have. So I'm not overly convinced that you should be going for anyone. Barr is injured, I believe, the right back, who is normally a little bit of an option on this game, as far as I'm aware. But as we've just been proven, Aaron, we can't be wrong on this. How do you think Benfica are going to get on?
They are starting to find kind of what you mentioned. They're starting to find their form and their rhythm. I do just think Sociedad have started really strongly. They won again 1-0 today. Mendes, of course. So I think he needs to be in everybody's team, especially for wild card. Like he just needs to be.
Got Pedro Gonçalves written all over him.
Yeah,
that's what
he's went up in price, so 6.6 for those that don't have him.
He'll go up again, by the way. He's going up again.
Yeah, so I think you do need to get him in. I think that's a priority transfer, regardless whether you're a wild card in or not. He just needs to be a transfer. He should be able to easily get into your team, just based on his price point. But Benfica, I actually see this match as a draw. And then I think Sociedad will beat them back in Spain.
Interesting. I don't fully disagree with that. I still think Real Sociedad actually probably win this game 1-0. That's spoiler for my prediction. Angel Di Maria is injured as well until early November. So he's not going to be fit for this game and maybe not the next one either.
Until he gets that magic juice that Gersons has.
Yeah, exactly. Whatever that sodden stuff is. So yeah, I think it is. Kubo's not really an option because he's a forward. Baronetsia, obviously 4.5 million still, but you just get Mendes, wouldn't you? I think that if you're going to go for
a 12 and a 14 pointer,
yeah, it's just go the flow. I think for his price, like what you got to lose, honestly, just I know it might feel like chasing points a little bit, but he's just scored again today. And sometimes this game is a lot more simple than what people give it credit for. You can just go for players that are regularly like it's La Liga. It's not a dud league. Who were they playing against today? Do you know?
I wish I paid that much attention. Mallorca.
Not a bad team, Mallorca. So yeah, I think it's 6.6 million. He'll go up to 6.7. He might be my -4, Aaron. Ooh. Because the more that I think about it, I need to get rid of Jules Koundé for Di Lorenzo. that needs to happen.
You look alike.
Well, it's just I just love his hair.
Inspiration.
You can't tell. I'm wish.com Di Lorenzo.
I think those who have seen you play would probably
agree with that as well. Did you give your score prediction for this game? I know you said draw, but did you? Is it going to be 5-5?
No, just 1-1.
Just 1-1.
Mendes goal. Mendes goal and own goal.
Fair enough. So we've gotten through groups A to D. I think we'll leave it there, and we'll do a Wednesday podcast as well, which we're just going to record through after this one, to be brutally honest with you. But it's more so for everyone's listening. We don't want to do a 2-hour podcast because we know we can't go on and they're not that easy to listen to. Thank you so much for listening. If you did make it this far, please don't forget to follow us at UCL Fantasy Pod on Twitter. Please like this video. Please subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to still subscribe to Gallagher Shots as well if you are into any Newcastle-based podcasts, anything like that. We will see you for the next one. Bye now.